On my birthday, I had no idea of the surprise that awaited me. It started like any other birthday, with the usual excitement, anticipation, and well wishes from friends and family. My husband had been acting a bit peculiar in the days leading up to it, but I thought he was just preparing one of his thoughtful surprises. He was known for planning grand gestures, romantic dinners, surprise trips, or intimate moments just for the two of us. But this birthday turned out to be unlike any other, taking a turn that changed my perception of our relationship forever. The day began as usual, with my husband being the first to wish me a happy birthday. He kissed me deeply, and I sensed a different energy in him, as if he was holding back some exciting secret. His eyes gleamed with a playful mischief, but he kept the details to himself. Throughout the day, he dropped hints like, "I have something special planned for tonight, you're going to love it." I assumed it was another one of his surprises, a fancy dinner, or maybe a weekend getaway. As evening fell, I got ready with a bit more excitement than usual. My husband had suggested I dress up but didn't provide any specifics. I chose a sleek yet alluring dress that fit me perfectly, accentuating my figure while leaving a bit to the imagination. Just as I was finishing up, the doorbell rang. Expecting a delivery or a surprise gift, I went to check, only to find my husband's best friend at the door. I had known him for years, he was part of our lives, but only as a friend. He was charming and easygoing, but I had never thought of him in a romantic light. Yet tonight there was something different in the air. He greeted me with a knowing smile as he stepped inside, and my husband welcomed him warmly. It quickly became clear that this was part of my husband's plan, though I was still in the dark about what that plan entailed. After some small talk, my husband took my hand and led me to the living room, where candles glowed softly and sensual music played in the background. My heart started beating faster, sensing a shift in the atmosphere, though I wasn't yet sure what was happening. His friend settled on the couch, watching us closely, while my husband pulled me close, whispering in my ear, "Are you ready for your surprise?" I nodded, curiosity piqued. He kissed me passionately, his hands sliding down my back, and for a brief moment I forgot we weren't alone. But then, I became aware of another presence, another set of eyes watching us. I glanced over to see his friend still seated, a faint smile playing on his lips. That's when I began to understand. My husband had never suggested anything like this before, but somehow in that moment, it all clicked. This wasn't going to be a typical birthday surprise, it was something much more intense, something that pushed boundaries we had never even discussed. Yet, instead of feeling uneasy or shocked, I felt a strange thrill. The idea of being with both my husband and his best friend at the same time was something I had never imagined. And yet, here it was, unfolding before me. My husband drew me closer, his kisses growing more passionate. His friend rose from the couch, approaching us slowly, the air around us thick with tension and desire. My heart pounded, and I felt a heat rising within me as the energy between us intensified. My husband leaned in and whispered once more, "Do you trust me?" I nodded, words failing me as my body responded to the building excitement. He kissed me again, this time with more urgency, as his hands explored my body, while his friend's presence drew nearer. I could hear his friend's breathing, the rustling of his clothes as he moved closer behind me. My mind raced, but I made no move to stop either of them. My husband's hands roamed my body, and soon his friend's hands joined in. They moved in perfect rhythm, their touches blending seamlessly, driving me into a heightened state of desire. My thoughts swirled between the unexpected thrill of this experience and the intense sensations overtaking my senses. The three of us lost ourselves in the moment, tangled together in a mix of passion and pleasure that I had never known. His friend leaned in, his warm breath brushing against my neck, sending a shiver through me as his lips lightly touched my skin. My husband kissed me fiercely, his grip on my hips firm, while his friend's hands explored my back. It was an experience beyond anything I had imagined, and I found myself surrendering to it, letting them guide me through what they had planned. The night unfolded in a series of intense, passionate moments, our bodies moving together in ways that felt entirely new. It was wild, freeing, and deeply exhilarating. It felt like I was part of something much more than just a physical connection. There was a deep trust between us, an unspoken understanding that allowed us to explore this new territory without fear. As the hours passed, I grew more comfortable with what was happening. My husband and his friend seemed to know exactly how to touch me, how to push me to the edge of pleasure and back again. It was clear they had planned this experience meticulously, knowing what would challenge my boundaries and what would make the night unforgettable. I had never felt more desired, more wanted, as they both lavished attention on me, exploring every part of me and driving me to new heights of ecstasy. By the time the night finally ended, I lay between my husband and his friend, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction and connection, unlike anything I had ever known. It was a birthday surprise like no other, one I would never forget. My husband kissed me softly, his hand resting on my hip, while his friend smiled at me, his gaze warm and affectionate. Words weren't necessary, everything had already been said through our actions. The night had been everything we didn't know we wanted, and we all sensed that. As I lay there, my thoughts swirled around what had just taken place. I never thought I'd find myself in such a situation, but now that it had happened, I couldn't imagine life without it. It was exhilarating, unexpected, and unlike anything I'd ever experienced. The following morning, I awoke to find my husband already up, preparing breakfast. His friend had left early, leaving us alone to process the events of the previous night. I looked at my husband and couldn't help but feel a surge of love and gratitude. He had given me the most extraordinary birthday surprise, one that had stretched the limits of our relationship in a way that felt entirely right. As I sipped my coffee, he leaned in and kissed me gently. "Happy birthday," he whispered, a playful smile dancing on his lips. I returned the smile, sensing that this was just the start of a new chapter for us, one filled with trust, passion, and perhaps a few more unexpected surprises. As the days went by, that night kept replaying in my mind like a secret I held close. It became a memory that lingered, surfacing whenever I found a quiet moment. My relationship with my husband had always been strong, but that experience had drawn us even closer, forging a connection that felt unbreakable. We had shared something so intimate, so thrilling, and it left me wanting more. Every time I looked at him, I could see the same thoughts reflected in his eyes, an unspoken agreement that things had changed, and we both liked it. His mischievous grin would remind me of that night, sending shivers through me. Yet there was a question lingering between us, one we hadn't yet addressed. Was that night a one-time adventure, or was it the beginning of something new? About a week after my birthday, we were relaxing on the couch, enjoying a quiet evening. My husband was scrolling through his phone, while I was lost in my thoughts. Then he suddenly looked up, his eyes gleaming with that familiar spark. "I've been thinking," he said in a low, teasing tone, "about your birthday surprise." My heart skipped a beat. I had been thinking about it too, but hearing him mention it made it all feel more real. "Yeah," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady even though my pulse was racing. He slid closer, his hand moving up my thigh in a way that always sent a jolt through me. "Did you enjoy it?" he asked, his tone turning more serious though still playful. I nodded, biting my lip. "You know I did," I whispered, my voice barely audible. His mischievous smile widened as he leaned in to kiss me, reigniting all the feelings from that unforgettable night, the passion, the excitement, the allure of something new and forbidden. When he pulled back, he studied my expression as if searching for an answer. "Would you want to do it again?" he asked, his voice hushed like he was sharing a secret. My heartbeat quickened. The thought of repeating that experience had crossed my mind many times, but I hadn't known how to bring it up. Now that he had, a wave of anticipation washed over me. "Maybe," I answered, my tone both playful and sincere. "Are you thinking what I think you're thinking?" His grin widened as he squeezed my thigh gently. I might be, he teased, but his serious gaze hinted that he was more than just joking. He continued quietly, "I've been talking to him. You know, my friend. He enjoyed it too. A lot." His words sent a rush of warmth through me, bringing back vivid memories of his friend's touch, his lips on my skin. The thought of experiencing that all over again, of exploring this newfound side of our relationship, thrilled me. "What are you suggesting?" I asked, even though I already had an idea. He leaned closer, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "I'm suggesting that maybe we don't have to stop at just one night." His words took my breath away. The idea of making this a regular part of our lives, of embracing this new dynamic, filled me with both excitement and nervousness. But when I met his gaze, I could see how much he wanted this, how eager he was to share that experience again. And in that moment I realized I wanted it too. "I think I'd like that," I whispered, my voice barely above a murmur, but my meaning clear. His smile grew wider, and he kissed me again, this time with more passion and urgency. I felt the same energy spark between us, just like on my birthday, and I knew we were about to embark on a new, thrilling journey together. A few days later, my husband came to me with another surprise. He had been talking with his friend again, and they had made plans for another night similar to my birthday, only this time there was no special occasion, just the three of us exploring this new side of our relationship, pushing boundaries in ways we hadn't before. As the night approached, I felt that familiar mix of excitement and anticipation. I dressed in something alluring, knowing that what lay ahead would be just as intense, if not more so, than our last experience. When my husband and his friend arrived, the air was thick with anticipation. There was no need for introductions or small talk this time. We all understood what was about to happen, and the excitement was palpable. My husband pulled me into a deep kiss, while his friend watched with a hungry look in his eyes. The three of us moved together seamlessly, as if we had done this many times before. There was no hesitation, just raw, unbridled desire. The intensity of that night surpassed our first experience, and I allowed myself to fully surrender to the moment. Every kiss, every touch, every glance was electric, and by the end of the night, I lay between them, utterly spent, yet more fulfilled than I had ever been. My husband kissed me softly, his hand resting on my hip, while his friend's warm, affectionate gaze lingered on me. This was no longer a one-time adventure. It had become something more, something woven into the fabric of our relationship. And as I lay there in the quiet aftermath, I realized I was not just okay with it, I was eager for whatever came next. If you've enjoyed my story, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. There's so much more to share, and trust me, the surprises have only just begun.